Hello and welcome to Dit Dot. My name is Amanda and I'm sure at some point you will see my dog Watson strolling through my kitchen. He likes to make an appearance in almost all my videos. So today's video is not going to rank very well in search because it's one of those videos where Amanda's making it up as she goes. I saw a recipe on Pinterest that looked really exciting. It was, I don't know how to pronounce it. I think it's Gozleme. It's a Turkish dish and it's kind of similar to, from what it looks like, I haven't actually ever eaten one, like a Turkish version of like a calzone. So it's basically a bread with a meat filling. One thing that's really exciting about this one is that it doesn't have yeast. So sometimes when you're wanting to make some kind of like pizza-y type dish and you don't have yeast, this bread will be good. So I will put a timestamp if you don't want to see how to make the dough so that you can skip to, the next part. But if you want to see how to make the dough, I decided to go ahead and do some footage of actually making dough. I will put how to make this dough right here.
Now you can use a mixer, but I like to make this simple dough in just my mixing bowl. You're going to start with 2.5 cups of white flour and about a teaspoon of salt. Mix it together to get the salt incorporated into your flour and add 1/3 cup of olive oil. At this point, you want to mix the oil into the flour so well that you get kind of a rough, sandy texture. 3/4 cup of water. And again, with my wooden spoon, I'm just mixing the water and scraping along the bottom of the bowl to get the flour incorporated into the water. Once it starts to all come together and pull away from the bowl, I mix it a couple of times in the bowl to try to pick up some of the loose bits of flour. It's going to be really what I call shaggy at this stage, but once it comes together, pour it out on your clean countertop and you're going to just start kneading the dough. This process is going to take at least 5 minutes of hard kneading. I'm checking its texture right here, and it's still not as shiny as I'd like it, so I'm going to keep going. There goes Watson, checking to see if I've dropped anything. Sometimes, using different techniques to knead it down. Now you can see it's starting to be smooth. So now that it's starting to get smooth, we will put it in a lightly greased bowl and let it rest for about 15 or 20 minutes.
So for my meat filling today, well, instead of telling you about it, let's just dive right in. All right, I'm turning my skillet on to like high, and I'm gonna put down some olive oil and get my onions and garlic started. So I like to work next to the stove and kind of cook and chop at the same time. So this is 1 small onion and a couple of cloves of garlic. So while that's cooking, we'll prep up some more of the filling. Now, just like usual, I'm going to be making way more filling than I need to make for this dish. That's just how I work, but I'm not even worried about that because I have a lot of ways that I use up extra filling. Like you can see my hash dish that I made last time I made something that needed a filling, and just add a fried egg onto something and call it a hash. Okay, so this is a zucchini, so I'm gonna get it chopped up. Actually, I'm gonna do the potatoes next. So it's good to work in the order of how things will cook. So I just realized I got onion. Oh, you can't see it, haha. I got onion on the front of my stove here. These are just little golden potatoes that I'm just gonna kind of cut into small cubes. So by no means at all is this Gozleme authentic. That's why I'm not even gonna put it in the title. I literally just saw it on Pinterest, and I will link the website down below because I did get the dough recipe from it, but I saw it. I didn't even look at their filling. I just wanted to do my own things with the ingredients that I knew I had in my house. So I just used that for inspiration on like a dinner idea, and I'm creating my own, you know, my own thing. So when I chop this up, and so this is a small, like I said, golden potato, but you could leave out the potato, you could use red potato, you could use an Idaho, the thing is, basically meat and a bunch of vegetables in a filling. And it's more about the technique than actually, what goes in it. So potatoes are gonna, like onions and potatoes are gonna take the longest to cook. Then I'm only gonna use half the zucchini, and I'll use the rest of it in some other dish. So again, I wanna keep everything kind of small little cubes. Notice as I'm chopping, I keep the tip of my knife down and I just go back and forth. Put that in, and then I will use my knife very carefully to scoop up vegetables. You just want to be very careful when you do that. All right, give this a stir. If it's starting to stick, now I don't care if it gets some browning today. Like sometimes you don't want your vegetables to brown, so you'd want to cook it on a lower temperature. Tonight, that's just gonna add some flavor, so I'm not worried about it. But, if it does stick, you can lower your temperature down a little bit. And I'm gonna add some salt at this stage and some pepper. I like to season as I go. Next, I'm going to chop up some mushrooms. Oh my gosh, this is a gorgeous button mushroom. This is another recipe where canned mushrooms would be fine. Just make sure you drain them really well because you don't want wet. Let's see, 1, maybe 2. Okay, so check your mushrooms if they have dirt. This is one thing that an apron is good for. Just give it a quick little. I'm not a big apron wearer, but there was a funny discussion on a YouTube cooking Facebook group the other day about whether or not people wear aprons in their home kitchens or not these days. And this is the only apron I own. I rarely put it on. They're just not comfortable to me. But I do have my great grandma's apron. Let me show it to you. I keep it in the drawer because it's just special, but this is one of those just the skirt aprons. The material is so super thin, like you can see through it. But this is my great grandma's apron that she wore every day that she cooked, and I don't ever use it. It's just in the back of my kitchen drawer as a memory. It's kind of funny to think my great grandma Cottle's apron is on a YouTube video now. All right, so they were starting to stick, so I added a little bit more olive oil. Your potatoes, can tend to do that. You could, of course, do a non-stick skillet, which I don't own any of those. Or I was gonna use my cast iron skillet, but it was dirty. And instead of actually taking the time to clean it, I stuck it in the oven, as one does, and pulled out a different skillet. Okay, so I am using breakfast sausage. So this is leftover from something. I don't even remember when it wasn't that long, but it's still good, I promise. So I'm gonna use some breakfast sausage. If you don't, you could just use ground pork and season it, or you could use ground chicken, ground turkey, and I'm also gonna add some ground beef to this. So I'm just kind of working it into the vegetables. And I'm gonna add my beef too. So this is about 1.5 pounds of beef, which is way too much for what I need. So I'm just going to add in some of it, probably close to 1 pound. And I will save this. I've got hamburgers on the menu, so I will save this little bit to add to my hamburgers that I'm going to cook up later this week. So now that I've added in my meat, I'm going to again add in a little bit more salt, some pepper, and I'm going to add some thyme and oregano. Quite a bit. Thyme. Smells so good. So on my, I don't even know what I should call these things. Hot pocket. Oh, there's Watson. My dough, my pastry, my meat pastry. I'm going to put some feta cheese in mine because I like feta and I think it would go really well with all these flavors. My family's not a big fan of feta, so I will either leave out cheese or see what other, just mozzarella or whatever. I was thinking about making a tzatziki sauce, which is Greek, to dip mine in. I'm not sure if I'm going to do that yet or not. Okay, I'm turning this back up because that meat lowered the temperature of this. I can tell everything's slowing down. I think dipping it in some tzatziki sauce would be really good. I don't know if I'm going to make it or not. And I might serve just actually a marinara sauce on the side for my family. Somehow, I'm the most foodie of my family, but they don't complain too much. I just like to be really adventurous when I'm eating and cooking, and they're like, hey, give us a grilled chicken breast and a hamburger, and we're happy. And I'm like, okay. But luckily, they put up with my, experimentations, and as long as I also cook them a simple hamburger every once in a while, they will eat this. Okay, so last, not quite yet because the meat's not quite done, and I want this to get like a little bit more brown. So I'm gonna leave this alone, but before I'm done, I will add some spinach and let that wilt down. And that will be my filling, and then we'll move on to the next step. I use lean beef, but with the addition of that sausage, there's quite a bit of grease in here. So before I add my spinach, I am gonna go ahead and drain this because I don't want, that's just too greasy. It would make the dough not work and everything like that. So I'm going to go ahead and drain this, and then I'll add the spinach. All right, so I drained off as much of the fat and grease as I could. I'm gonna give this a quick taste. It's good. I'm gonna add a little bit more oregano, actually. I don't really taste any of the oregano, but I taste the hint of the sausage because I think I put more beef than sausage, but it's plenty salty and good. If you like things spicy, you can add red pepper flakes. Oh man, that's good. Okay, so I'm gonna turn this back on just to wilt down some spinach. And again, you could leave this out. This dish, I was thinking what else would be good in it. Some green peas would be good. Some maybe like asparagus that you cut really, really small. Whatever vegetables that you've got in your garden, I think would complement this dish very nicely. And cooking it instead of meat, using lentils. And if you wanted to turn this into a vegetarian dish, lentils and all your vegetables, I would love to try it that way. I think my family would actually balk at me if I serve them too many vegetarian meals. I did do that vegan hamburger one night, and it actually went over really well. That was a really tasty hamburger. All right, so I'm gonna wilt this down and meet you back onto the other counter. All right, so this dough has had about 20 minutes to rest while I was cooking the filling. And since it is summer here in the Pacific Northwest, I'm actually gonna make these on the grill. So I have some pizza pans that are grill safe. And otherwise you can make these up and then either put them on a griddle or in your cast iron skillet. So I'm going to divide my dough into 4 pieces, trying to be quite even with them. I don't know, not sure if I'm doing that well. And then I'm gonna move this out of the way so I can roll it out. Ooh, that was loud. I'm going to kind of roll them in a oblong shape. And they're gonna be very thin. So, oh, this dough is so soft. I love making dough. Several years ago when my kids were quite young, I spent several months, like probably 8 months one year, making homemade sandwich dough. Sandwich dough, homemade sandwich bread. It may have been up to a year where instead of buying sandwich bread, I just got into like a daily kind of habit and made dough and different types of sandwich bread, but mostly white or wheat. And that year really helped me with all kinds of doughs. So I'm trying to decide, this end right here is a little bit thinner, so I'm trying to roll this out a little bit, which is really funny to me because I quite suck at baking. And dough is similar to baking, but for some reason, bread doughs and me are friends. All right, let me get my filling. So I'm gonna put some of this filling. I'm gonna try to, again, drain it. Like, it's not super wet, but I don't want any kind of grease on here. Whoa. So fill it, and you want it kind of flat. I'm making this up as I go. I sound like I know what I'm talking about, but honestly, I made something similar to this, like I said, once, many moons ago. It was a long time ago. I remember thinking, oh, this is the best thing ever. I need to make it again. And it's been who knows how long. And when I saw this again on Pinterest, I'm like, oh, that's a dish I made a long time ago. I need to make it again. So here I am making whatever new version of that dish is. So I'm kind of almost out of feta cheese, so I'm kind of glad I'm the only one who wants it. So this one's gonna be mine, and I'm going to put feta in mine. And that's the cool thing about cooking, because a dish like this, you can customize to different family members to a point, you know? Like, I mean, if one's vegetarian, one's not, you'd have to make 2 fillings, but you know, as far as the different cheese goes, that's easy to keep out and add to the end. Now, one area where I am not very good at is making my like pie doughs and things like that, edges pretty. I just don't have the patience for it. So I'm just gonna crimp it shut and put this on my pizza plate, and very carefully. So if you were gonna fry this in a skillet or on a griddle, you'd get your griddle really hot, put this down, and then flip it. I feel like it shouldn't have this much air in it. So I'm gonna pop it. My dough's too good. Squeeze out my air and then pinch that shut again. Maybe I can get all 4 of these on one pizza plate. That'd be really good. Oh, I did spray some olive oil spray on these just in case they have a tendency to stick. All right, I'm gonna make up the last 4 and then I'll meet you outside at the grill. All right, my grill is nice and hot, 500 degrees. So I'm going to put this right on, and thing about it, when you're making up your own dish, you're not quite sure how long to do it. So we'll check on them in about 5 minutes and see if they're ready to flip. So I just flipped them over. They are looking really good. Let's see if they're starting to brown on this side yet. Yep. So I'm gonna give them like, well, I think they're done, guys. Yeah, look at that. Oh, ooh. All right, so we're gonna pull them. Hey, I just wanna say thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, make sure you please hit that subscribe button and the like and notifications, and then that way you will get future videos from me. Till the next video, bye.